So stay to the end so you can win this or this for free. Got it? Hit that like button right now. That's step one. Now, YNW Bortlen was accused of something that he did not do. And so many people got upset. But now what we have is the plea deal. And we'll see if the internet exonerates him now. The defendant in the above style case, Cortlen Henry, resolved his case on September 9, 2025 by pleading to 2 counts of accessory after the fact to a capital homicide in the 2019 case and 2 counts, one of tampering with a witness and one of unlawful use of a two-way communication device in the 2023 case. He was sentenced to the bottom of the guidelines, which was 10 years in the Florida State Prison, followed by 6 years of probation. And it's to be understood what we're saying, bro. So basically, when you get caught with witness tampering, you could face the maximum of life, but you'd have to do something massively egregious. All right. So I just want you people to understand that before we continue on. The evidence in the 2019 homicide case would show that the defendant was present in the vehicle at the time of the shooting, but was insufficient to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he participated in a way that would make him a principal to the homicide committed by co-defendant Jamel Demons versus participating after the facts and helping to conceal the crime. Therefore, the state agreed to allow the defendant to plead to 2 counts of accessory after the fact to the murders of Anthony Thomas and Christopher Williams. The evidence in the 2023 tampering case would show that the defendant engaged his co-defendants by ensuring that witness Mariah Hamilton did not cooperate in a homicide trial of Jamel Demons. These communications occurred through co-defendant Terrence Mathis while Mr. Mathis was in custody with Jamel Demons. Mr. Mathis would call Henry and instruct him on what Mr. Demons wanted, passing along to Mariah Hamilton. Ms. Hamilton ultimately never appeared for trial in the case of Mr. Demons. However, she has since been located and is on ankle monitor pending the retrial of Mr. Demons. In exchange for his plea deal to these charges, the state agreed to allow him to plead to the actual tampering and not the conspiracy to commit the tampering. Since the inception of both sides, the state has always intended to try all co-defendants together. At the initial speedy trial of Mr. Demons, the state still intended to try both co-defendants together, and no motion to sever was ever filed by either Mr. Demons or Mr. Henry. It has been the state's position as well as that Mr. Henry's counsel that Mr. Henry's case should be stayed pending the appeal of Mr. Demons. However, the court ordered the case of Mr. Henry was not stayed, therefore de facto severing the co-defendants. Cortlen Henry has no prior criminal history. Given the above evidence and issues, it was decided that the best course of action would be to resolve the case to the bottom of the guidelines, followed by a probationary sentence, and provide a proffer as to what his testimony would be if called upon. All right. So the screen that you're looking at should basically be a side-by-side, all right? Cool. So I want y'all to get the pros and cons, right? We'll start with the cons, man. I always like my bad news first before I like my good news, right? So here's how it hurts YNW Melly. Confirms YNW Bortlen's involvement. YNW Bortlen pled guilty to accessory after the fact in the 2019 homicides of Sack Chaser and Juvie. That officially locks in that the murder happened and that Bortlen admits he helped cover them up afterwards. Tampering evidence against Melly. The memo ties Melly directly to witness tampering. It says Bortlen working with co-defendant Terrence Mathis while Melly was in custody. Relayed instructions to pressure Mariah Hamilton not to testify. That's a big hit against Melly, showing he was trying to silence a witness. Proffer requirement as part of his plea. Bortlen has to give a proffer, basically an official statement about what he knows if he's ever called. He could testify about Melly's actions, communications, and attempts to block witnesses. That could seriously damage Melly in his retrial. How it helps YNW Melly. So here's the good part. Not enough to make Bortlen a principal. The state admitted they couldn't prove beyond reasonable doubt that Bortlen was a part of the actual killings. That means they couldn't show he pulled the trigger or directly carried out the murders with Melly. That weakens the idea of a coordinated hit team. Plea deal instead of trial. Letting Bortlen plead out to lesser charges, the state avoids testing its homicide evidence in open court. That keeps the jury in Melly's retrial from seeing Bortlen tried alongside him, so it doesn't look like a united front of co-conspirators. Witness reliability issues. Mariah Hamilton never testified, despite all the pressure, and only resurfaced later. That shows the state still struggles with this key witness, which Melly's side can argue makes the case shaky and unreliable. So I'm going to really give y'all how y'all should look at this. I think it's only fair. Now, had that paper came out and no lawyers said a thing, I ain't gonna hold you. I would have had to abandon my son, man. You know what I'm saying? I know YNW Bortlen, so that's why I can say this. But The lawyer said this.
It's clear that a lot of people just don't understand what has happened. In all, he was facing 5 mandatory life sentences if found guilty, plus an additional 75 years on top of that. And the facts of his plea are that he has pled no contest. That's very important because that means he has not admitted guilt. He's not admitted that he's done anything wrong. And he's certainly not admitted or given information about anybody else. He's been found guilty, and in exchange, the state has dismissed the 2 murder counts, the conspiracy to tamper with a witness count, and the charge about directing the activities of a criminal gang. He's going to be sentenced to 10 years in Florida State Prison, followed by 6 years of probation with credit for time that he has served. And he's required, as a part of that, to sit down and give what's called a proffer. Typically, when you hear the word proffer, especially in a criminal case, it's when a witness offers information or will explain what they would testify to if called at trial or a hearing. It's unfortunate that we use that word today in court because that's not what's going to happen in this case. Bortlen is not going to sit down and give a lengthy proffer or answer questions about what he would testify to if he were called as a witness, because we don't anticipate him being called as a witness at any trial or any hearing, especially not one involving Melly. What I can tell you is that Bortlen is not going to implicate anybody else. He's not going to provide information against anybody else. Melly's name is not even going to come out of his mouth when he's talking to prosecutors in this case. I anticipate the conversation with the prosecutors is going to be very, very brief. And it is not going to be what everyone thinks it's going to be online, where he sits down and rats or provides information to cooperate against other people. A lot of people are saying that Bortlen's plea and his proffer are going to hurt Melly in some way and affect his trial in the future. And again, that's absolutely untrue. YNW Bortlen is not going to be a state witness. YNW Bortlen is not going to provide information that's going to impact Melly's trial in any way. YNW Bortlen is not expected to come and provide information against anybody. So to be clear, his plea, his proffer, and anything surrounding it will have absolutely no impact on Melly's trial.
All right, let's get to it. Let's talk YNW Bortlen and YNW Melly. The information is coming in fast and furious to my office. People are calling me left and right. They saw the post. You know what time it is. And they are telling me that YNW Bortlen is not going to be a flipper, and he is not going to be the cheese eater I previously said that he could become. And he is going to give a statement. I don't know what that statement's going to be, but his attorney is an excellent attorney. He's one of my good friends and you know, really helped me out as a young attorney. Fred Haddad, a great guy. And he represented very, very few, if any, flippers in the past. That's why I was kind of surprised at first. But it turns out, the rumor on the street, YNW Bortlen is not going to be a flipper, but he will give a proffer.
YNW Juvie's lawyer decided to speak out and against YNW Bortlen's freaking lawyers in his plea deal. Basically, he said something because the media said he would not testify against YNW Melly. So he went on Twitter and he says, looks like some are still carrying water for Team Melly. This really is a very simple spin way to look at this. But those who want to carry water on the 5% chance he gets out will be camels for life, I guess. Bortlen's lawyers had to say this to keep him safe and his lawyer fees paid. Despite obvious conflict, they are also telling outright lies or know nothing about how civil and criminal subpoenas work. Look at it this way. 1. Bortlen has agreed to give a statement as a condition of the plea. 2. Bortlen has years to sit in the state prison, so he's easy to transport and cannot hide like other witnesses at the last trial. 3. Bortlen can be subpoenaed to testify in both cases, and I assure you will be in a civil case. So, to say he won't talk is simply wrong. 4. He can certainly lie and face perjury or obstruction charges and more time. He's not a convicted felon, and double jeopardy has attached to, well, I don't know why he wrote it that way, but has attached to he doesn't have the Fifth Amendment to hide him. And 6, he and Adrian Davis are the only ones left who maintain YNW Melly changed cars, and Davis is now hiding from everyone and even abandoned by the civil lawyers. Meanwhile, the forensic evidence is overwhelming, and Glass, Withers, and Mills all have on record evidence saying that that was all a lie. This is all a spin to protect perception from reality. The reality is this is bad for Melly's defense. The reality is Dimmons was last in that seat behind Bortlen, and there's no evidence he changed seats other than Davis's testimony. And the reality is Juvie was shot at close range by the person sitting in that seat. And all of the forensics point to one person. The state messed up discovery in this first trial enough to get a mistrial. The new team isn't bound by a lot of those errors and arrogance. And only now is Cortlen Henry fair game in both civil and criminal cases, as the shroud of the Fifth Amendment has been removed at law. While the state may not consider him credible enough to testify, we will depose him and get to the bottom of Juvie's murder. It's pretty easy to figure out. Here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. It doesn't hurt or help, right? If YNW Melly is ultimately, let's say, found guilty on witness tampering, that right there, once you involve somebody in jail and then you put other people in precarious situations, that's on you. YNW Bortlen ain't testifying in the murder, the hit. He participated afterwards is what they're trying to say. So I get what people gonna say, well, it's two dead bodies. But he drove him to the hospital. I mean, once you did that, it was already over. So there's that part. How does it hurt? How does it help? How does it hurt? How does it help? Seti Nash, tell us the truth. It does nothing. It literally does nothing. Him saying that I drove the bodies afterwards, Melly is saying I wasn't in there. So whatever happened, bruh, it happened. If I'm Melly's team, I'm shifting all the blame to Bortlen. Bortlen would 100% understand. Bruh, y'all let the supposed murderer, the person who showed up with the bodies, go for basically 10 years because y'all didn't have a case. It wouldn't surprise me if that's essentially brought up. Now, I don't know if that'll be brought up because that'll be a hell of a thing to say, because then you dang near are forcing them to go ahead and get a statement. So I'm not looking at it that way, but it just is what it is. We're going to see the power of Drew Filling and see if Drew Filling is awesome, like everybody, including myself, has always said. But this one here is very difficult. Now, what do I think is going to happen in the interim? I think it'll be another mistrial. I'm sorry. I don't think the atmosphere in the YNW Melly trial is one that bodes well for the state. Why? Because to me, it's going to sound like, man, no jury is going to want to find this man all the way guilty. I think there's going to be probably like a couple of people, but then there's going to be more people say, nah, not this time. So I don't know. Will the state ultimately plead out to a lesser on like double manslaughter and give him like 20 years and basically say he served 10 more or something like that? That's possible. I don't see why they would do that, because the state has enough resources to go ahead and do that. Now, here's the ugly part. YNW Bortlen had one of the best attorneys in all of Florida, according to everybody down there. Granted, the way he came in, all of that stuff, bro, I ain't gonna hold you, definitely looked wild. The way in which that man came in, it definitely looked freaking wild. But that don't matter. When his lawyer when the judge said basically, I don't know how he pulled it off, well, it's easy. The two DAs are rookies. They're new. They ain't got that much experience. They don't know what they're dealing with. So what they settled on is, let's get a conviction and let's get rid of YNW Melly. We really want our guy, so we're going to get rid of him. The family can settle on the conviction and leave it be. He'll be on probation for 6 years. He'll probably mess up. That's what they're thinking. I don't think that's going to happen. He'll probably mess up, and that'll be that, and that'll be that. So Bortlen's whole entire thing is I ain't snitching on my homie. I ain't snitching on my homie. And technically, you didn't. But that whole entire communication device stuff, where the max out is going to be on life, regardless of whatever anybody's saying. But what they did, it just goes to show. It all depends on Mariah. If Mariah says something like, YNW Melly did not tell me don't come to court, then the witness tampering stuff doesn't really matter. Now, if she get up on there and she goes full scorched earth and say, hey, man, they was threatening me, they was doing all this stuff and everything like that, because the mom did show text messages, and Bortlen basically was laughing like, nah, man, that's not happening, because the mom is the reason for the witness tampering stuff that basically happened. Just is what it is. Now, do we expect the mom to say something wild or something crazy? No. All of these individuals have all became a little bit smarter. Why? Because of some bald-headed nut out of Atlanta that basically gave everybody the blueprint to say, I don't recall. You can't force somebody to recall anything. You can't force somebody to have a hell of a memory. By the time all of this stuff is done, it's going to be 7 to 8 years since the murders of Sack Chaser and Juvie. Just is what it is. I know nobody wants to hear that. Man, bro, you telling me they're going to sit there and they're going to do that, bro? When the girl did this, allegedly, she was like a 12th grader or something like that or something. She was young. You feel what I'm saying? So there's that. Now, all in all, this is a W for Melly. Why? Because Bortlen's not coming in there saying, I was in that car when they shot. And it was YNW Melly. He's not saying that. So he's not saying that. I say I'm not in the car. I'm going to put the blame on Bortlen. Simple. But they got to kind of ease it in there, bro. I don't know how they're going to pull it off. They're just going to have to pull it off. Because there is no way out of this for Bortlen unless he simply says this. Man, I was drunk, passed out at the light. You know what I'm saying? Niggas was high. We was off of all of these drugs and stuff and everything and blah, blah, blah. And whatever the hell, like, bro, I don't even remember what happened that night. If he says that, the prosecution is fried. Because we don't know what drugs these youngins is on. And if he says that, they don't have nothing. It's nothing in there that says he has to testify to what we're saying. He has to say YNW Melly is the person and all of this crap. Now, does it look bad on paper? 100%. Cannot deny that part. But all in all, hell nah. Then you can say this. We don't know what was said. We don't know if that was witness tampering or not. Whatever that paper says is whatever that paper says. Whatever those messages are, whatever those messages are. But we shall see. But y'all heard the lawyer. He's not coming in to testify. So I don't know what y'all want me to say. But I'll catch you on the next one. Kodak Black and Lil Boosie is getting after it. But that'll be in the next video. But click right here and see how Kodak Black was already in the news before. Man, he was trying to mess with Mariah the Scientist while Young Thug was locked up. And you won't believe Young Thug's response. But click right here and I'll catch you on the next one. Oh, yeah. Make sure you subscribe, turn on the bell to notify. You can win that PS5 or that Xbox.